Hey everyone, it's Dr. Hayes. In today's video we're going to be reviewing briefly everything I read in March. And as you can see, it's quite a lot of books. I read I think 10 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I read one on my Kindle, which is at the top. I read 10 books. I don't usually read this much. My average is like 7 or 8. However, I got made redundant from my job on the last day of February. So I've had a lot more free time. Of course, which I have filled with reading. So no, I don't usually read so much, but it's just the way my life went. So we're just gonna review them all. I'm gonna try and keep this as spoiler free as possible. And let's just get into it. Am I going to start with the one I already made a whole dedicated video on, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. It's the, well, it's the second Hunger Games prequel, but I guess I'm not sure what number to give it. I don't know. Like, I guess A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is like Hunger Games 0, so this is like Hunger Games 0.5. I don't know, but anyway, really enjoyed it. 5 stars. I read it entirely on the day it came out. If I indeed still had my job the day it came out, I would have taken a day's holiday to read this. Like, as soon as I found out this book was coming out, I was like, I gotta take a day off work. I got made redundant though, so that didn't happen. But oh my god, loved it so much. I think it's really difficult as a writer to keep the quality of books in a series all the same. Like 80% of the time I read any kind of series, fantasy, science fiction, anything else. I usually find there's one that is a standout better than the rest and one that's a standout not as good as the rest. But I feel with the Hunger Games, they're all excellent. I enjoy the films. I think the film's coming out, I think it's like end of next year. It's not soon, that's fine, I don't mind. But I'm excited for that as well. I can't wait. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think my favourite character was, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but Maisie Lee. I'm not sure. But I really loved it. She was absolutely great. So the next book I read in March, actually I think this was the first book I read in March, was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, which I gave 3.5 stars. And I feel like I'm very late to this book. I remember when this book came out and everyone was raving about it, but I didn't read it for reasons I don't remember. However, I lost my job, like I said before, and one of the things I did before I went home, after like we went in the office and we were all told we were going to be made redundant, I went in the Waterstones because I was upset. And this is one of the books I bought, The Midnight Library. So basically, if you know what The Midnight Library is about, it's about this woman, she's like, I think she's like 35 or something. She is grossly unhappy with her life. So she initially, as a child, trained to be a swimmer and was going to eventually compete in the Olympics, but she ended up with anxiety and she was too scared, so she stopped. Then with her brother and her brother's friends, she was in a band with them and they were about to sign a huge record deal, but she got really bad stage fright and she stopped. Then she got engaged to this guy, but again, she cut the engagement off. There's so many things she could have done, basically, so many paths she could have taken, but for however she felt, for whatever reason, she didn't end up taking them. And she's just decided, you know, I'm done, and she tries to unalive herself. However, she doesn't succeed and she ends up in like a limbo, I guess, and this limbo is the Midnight Library, where basically she's reunited with her like school's librarian from when she was a child, and they look through all these possible different paths her life could have taken. And I do think it was a necessary book for me to read. I think possibly I maybe read it too soon, like I literally started it the day after I got made redundant. This was like, I picked this up 1st of March, I was like, let's go, I need some answers. So I'm a Christian and I definitely believe in like something like a job redundancy is redirection. So I was like, okay, if I'm not supposed to do that job, then what am I supposed to do instead? If that's not my path, then what is my path? And I definitely am someone who gets a lot of anxiety around the future. I'm like, is this the right decision? Like when it's a big life decision. If it's a small decision like what I'm gonna eat today, I don't really get anxious around that. But if it's a big life decision, like a career, like when I've been applying for jobs since I got made redundant, I'm like, is this something I want to do? Do I see a future in this for me? Where could this take me? If I did get this job, if I did get an interview for it, where would I go from here? Like all these little decisions that would make up my life. And that's basically what this book is about. That there are loads of different paths that the main character could have taken, and in turn the same about you. And there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer. You just have to do it because that's life. Which as a person with anxiety, it wasn't that reassuring because I like to be steered. I'm autistic, I also like having a schedule. I like to be certain about things. But that being said, I really did enjoy it. I didn't think it had the intended effect it should have had when I read it, but literally I was stupid and read it. I started reading it the day after I got made redundant, the day after I lost my job. However, since then, when I've been just moving through life. Like I started this channel after I got made redundant and stuff like that. It has like kept cropping up back in my mind, like about the plot of this book and the different decisions she does make towards the end of it. So yeah, I think because like I said, I read it so soon after, I may need to reread this book in a few months, depending how the job search goes. So at the minute I had nothing back. Yeah, I did think it was good for its intended purpose. I gave it 3.5 stars. Another one that got 3.5 stars was Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. This one was a Waterstones exclusive with sprayed pink edges. But why, if it's green, why is it pink? I feel like the sprayed edges should have been green. Anyway, basically we have two main characters here. This is Marielle. Yeah, Marielle. I wasn't sure if I was pointing her in the viewfinder. This is Marielle, who is Robin Hood's granddaughter, and this is Clemence, who is like an apprentice healer, basically. And it's doesn't actually ever say Nottingham, I'm pretty sure, but like they talk about being in the Sherwood Forest and the sheriff is still there, so it does seem like it is Nottingham. But basically, right at the start of the book, Clemence is kidnapped from the house of her... Who's in charge of the apprentice? The mentor? I don't know the correct word for it. The head healer or whatever. Clemence is taken because the head healer has been accused of healing some unsavoury people, like the Sheriff of Nottingham and his relatives, which for the merry men is an absolute no-go, like why are you helping them? However, Clemence, because her mentor is very, very old, Clem goes in her place and she meets Marielle and all the other merry men and ends up joining them on their adventures, even though she's meant to be like a kidnap victim, basically. Honestly, the whole experience of kidnapping does sound very nice in this book. They're very unserious kidnappers. However, there's like internal conflict with the merry men and kind of the new policy. So basically, even though Marielle is Robin Hood's granddaughter, Robin Hood himself has retired, and Marielle's father, which is Robin Hood's son-in-law, has taken over and is implementing things, and people aren't necessarily sure if that's the direction they should be going. But it was such a fun book. I really like kind of like spin-offs like this. I haven't watched them, but I love the idea of the Descendants movies where they're all children of Disney villains. I think that was so fun. I did really enjoy it. And also it is an LGBTQ plus romance. One of my aims this year has been to read more LGBTQ plus fiction. And I don't really know why. I don't feel like it's a conscious choice. However, when I go in bookshops and I look at recommendations and stuff, I'm always finding stuff when it's a romance, and I love romance, that is a straight romance. I very rarely read anything but a straight romance when it comes to fiction. However, with my fan fiction choices, I barely ever read straight fan fiction. It's the opposite. So I'm trying to fix that where my fiction books are concerned and read less straight romance and kind of diversify a bit more, which is pretty much the primary reason why I picked this up. The first selling point was Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood. And the second selling point was the LGBTQ plus romance. I think it was super cute because originally I wouldn't have picked up a book like this. As you can see, it's got the characters on the cover, and fun fact about me, I do not like books with characters on the cover. Let me imagine it myself. I don't like being told what they look like. But even then, I did really, really enjoy it. I think the main sticking point for me is the romance was nice. However, Clem and Marielle don't spend a great deal of time together. So I found it honestly hard to believe at some points that they develop feelings for each other. Because I was a bit like, you don't even talk that much. So yeah, I did still really like it, but I thought it would have been better if it was honestly a little bit longer and they had more scenes together so we could see them slowly developing feelings for each other. My next read in March was Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen, which I gave 3 stars. I think actually out of all the books, 3 stars was the least I gave in March. Like, I had a pretty good month overall. Usually I have like a lot more fluctuation with ratings. Sometimes even a few 0 stars. In December I had like 2 0 stars on my story graph. So which is how I track all my readings. So overall this has been a good month. And as you can see, it's a hardbook. It was brand new. I picked it up on the day I got made redundant. I needed some retail therapy and I couldn't be bothered going properly into town and trying on clothes. I was just like, let's go to the bookshop and then let's go home. So I believe again this was a Waterstones exclusive with a gorgeous sprayed edge, which I what's even more gorgeous. I think these are called end pages. Look at that, stunning. And also at the table in Waterstones they have free bookmarks, which was great. The bookmark felt really nice. It's like a soft plush matte finish, probably not the right words I'm using. Anyway, it is about 2 characters, and I'm not going to say their names, because then I think it's really obvious what's going on. So they have real names, and then they have, I guess, also real names in each life. So basically what happens is these two people you see on the cover, you can't see them very well though, it's kind of more almost silhouettes with some colour to them, who are basically, they find each other in every single lifetime, but they end up killing each other before they turn 18. However, the girl, but who isn't always a girl, but she's a girl for most of the book, she's like, no, I like this life. So the main story that you see is set in 2022, I think, in Wales, and she is like, I have to save my younger sister, she needs like a bone marrow transplant, I'm like the only match we've found so far, I have to stay alive past my 18th birthday, I wanna live this life, don't want to die before I turn 18. And she's been like vigilant about the next person who could be coming along to kill her, because it's always the same person. However, in every lifetime they both look different, so she never knows what she should be looking for. However, most of the time they end up falling in love with each other, which, you know, not good. So one of the things I really loved about this book is all the effort that went into their previous lives. So it's basically almost every other chapter. So you have one chapter set in the present day in Wales, and then one chapter set in the past. There were so many different locations, so many different time periods, and I absolutely appreciated all the effort the author put in to researching all these locations, so it was accurate but also historically accurate, because they're all set in the past at different time frames, different ages, and different historical things would have been happening in those countries at the time. But they only spend one chapter there, like literally 7 pages, and then it's back to Wales and we never go back to that location again. So I absolutely appreciated all the effort that went into all that research just for the sake of one chapter. I thought it was absolutely amazing. However, I have to say, I felt that the same two characters, it's the same two characters all the way through, they just have different names, they look different, and sometimes different genders. I felt all the past incarnations of them had better chemistry than the present day Welsh incarnations of them. Which is a bit weird, because you literally only spend a chapter with each version of the other ones, and then you spend the rest of the book with the present day Welsh characters. And I thought the other ones had better chemistry, which isn't great for a romance book. And also, secondly, this was a massive issue I had with it. And I also had another big problem with it, and it's around how the protagonist feels. And I can 100% understand that when she tells the reader, like, I'm really scared, I'm gonna die again this time for my 18th birthday, because A, I want to live this life, and B, my sister needs the bone marrow in order to survive. I want my younger sister to live a long life as well. So I 100% understand why she is scared, and she keeps telling the reader, like, I am petrified. This person could be anywhere. I don't know what they look like, I don't know their name, I don't know anything. Where are they? Are they coming for me? However, when we finally find out which person in their life it is, they don't come across as scared. They come across as absolutely fed up. And I can understand that, because it's been literally centuries at this point of this protagonist having to feel like they're on the run from this person. So while I understand both of those things, I do feel they are somewhat diametrically opposed, because the author telling the reader like, oh, she's really scared, but then showing the reader like, actually she doesn't care that much, she's just a bit fed up with the whole thing, doesn't really mesh well together. So I did really enjoy it, but I just thought it could have done with some improving in other areas. So the next book I read in March is The Chronicles of Narnia, The Magician's Nephew. This is number 1 in the Chronicles of Narnia series. I actually got this the last time I was at 66 Books. I got the whole box set, and I don't usually buy the whole collection of books, but I felt this was a necessary collection for me to own, because you won't know this, but the reason I was born was because of the Chronicles of Narnia. Like most people, my mum's favourite Chronicles of Narnia book, and actually just her favourite book of all time, is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I have 3 siblings. There's of course 4 siblings in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. So it's basically, this book series is the reason I was born. I have had the whole collection read to me over the course of my life when I was growing up, but I've never actually read them myself. I've had them read to me, but I don't remember everything because I was so young when it was happening, and I just felt, because of this connection to my family that these books had, that I had to not only get them all, but also to read them all. So I had really low expectations of The Magician's Nephew. Like, everyone I've met who has read the Narnia books are always just like, yeah, you don't need to read the first one, just skip it, just go straight to the second one, you don't need the first one. And I do absolutely understand where people are coming from, because basically this whole book is like a setup of the world of Narnia. Like, the second half of this book pretty much is Aslan, who is basically God. He's like a massive allegory, a Christian allegory. He's basically God, and he comes down and he creates Narnia. You see the birth of Narnia, you see creation. And it's basically a whole setup. Basically anyone who is a prologue skipper, which isn't me, would hate this book because it's just set up for the rest of the series. But because basically everybody hates it, I really wasn't expecting a great deal, but I was absolutely in love with it. Every single second. I completely adored it. I thought it was absolutely amazing, especially the creation part. I'm also a Christian. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. A very easy 5 stars, and in April I'm going to be reading the next one. I cannot wait. It was amazing. Now, the next two I have, completely different, are the second and third books from the Princess Diaries series. I'm going to talk about the second one first. However, if you're wondering why you're reading the Princess Diaries, so basically the first Princess Diaries film and the second one are my 2 favourite films of all time. Very excited for the third one finally coming out, hopefully within the next 5 years. If it all goes to plan, I guess. But even though I love the films, I never actually read the books growing up. I'm not really sure why, but I was like, I gotta read them. So for Christmas, my youngest brother very, very kindly, he bought all of them for me. I think there's 10, although I hear people saying there's 12. I only own 10. If there are more, please let me know. So I'm like, I'm gonna read one a month. However, last month in February, I was away on holiday and I forgot to take one with me. So I didn't end up reading one in February, so to make up, I read 2 this month, and oh my god. So if you don't know what the Princess Diaries is about, you need to watch the films or read the books, because the books are great. You need to read or watch them immediately. But it's about this normal girl called Mia, who in the film lives in San Francisco, but in the book she lives in New York. She has a very normal life. Her parents don't live together, they're not even in a relationship anymore. I don't think they were ever married. Her mum is a single mum, she is a painter, and Mia goes to school. She has normal like teenage issues, everything is normal. But then one day she gets told she is a princess. So in the film, her dad is dead, which makes Mia the heir to the throne. In the books, her dad is alive. If you want to know why they did that, it's because they got Julie Andrews for the role of the queen, so they just yeeted Mia's dad. They're like, yeah, he's dead. Because Julie Andrews. I'd do the same. But in the books, he's alive. But basically, he had Mia and he was like, okay, well, she can live a normal life with you, Helen, which is her mum, and I will have further children, further heirs, who will take the throne of Genovia. However, he never had more children, and then he gets, I believe, testicular cancer, and after all the treatment, he can no longer have children. So Mia is the sole heir to the throne. So they have no choice but to tell her. And of course, as a 14-year-old American girl finding out you're actually the heir to a small European country and you didn't know until you were 14, she freaks out. And chaos ensues because she's still a normal girl going to school, but she's also a princess now. So in the first one, her mum starts a relationship with, in the books it's her algebra teacher, but in the films it's her debate teacher. They are the same character, Mr. Gianni. Is he called Mr. Gianni in the films? I know these films like the back of my hand and I've completely forgotten his name, but anyway. Basically in the second one, Mia's mum gets pregnant and it's just chaos. There's like a royal-ish wedding in it, and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are there having a good chinwag. Phil Collins is ready to play the piano to get like walk the bride down the aisle. Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, is there and she makes Mia some arts and crafts so she can go to the Rocky Horror Show for Halloween dressed up. It's just some of the best things happen. And also Mia's cousin visits them from, I can't remember what state it was, but basically the family are kind of stereotyped as being stupid. And she says about her cousin, and I'm definitely gonna use this in my life, she says, the elevator was working, but it didn't go all the way up. And I was like, Mia, yes. So I gave the second one, which the copy of I have, it's called a Take Two, but I don't think it's called that anymore. But I gave this 4 stars, was amazing. However, third time lucky, the third one, which again, don't think it's called that anymore, I gave a solid 5 stars. Like, don't get me wrong, the second one and also the first one, which is also a 4 stars, they were good, but I was like, these taken to the next level. And oh my god, right, so I'm a psychopath, I like to sit at my desk to read, I know, not like a comfy chair or anything. I'm like, yeah, my desk, thanks, with a metal chair, let's go. I read the last 40 pages of this all in one sitting, which is very easy because of the format of them. It is literally like diary entries. Some of them are more like showing and telling with like longer excerpts. It's like this person says this and they felt this and they did that. It's kind of more traditional storytelling, but sometimes it's me being like, oh, I had a terrible day, I've got loads of homework, I'll talk to you tomorrow, sort of thing. But oh my god, so I was sat at my desk in one sitting the last 40 pages, and it made me so unbelievably happy that I was slapping my desk like a constipated seal. It was amazing. Oh my god. I won't tell you what happened because it was great, but basically there is a love confession for Mia. And I think it is one of my favourite love confessions of all time. Oh my god. It was so good. Amazing. And I am so excited to read the next one. So the next one I want to talk about is Alice by Christina Henry. So I gave this book 4 stars overall. I really liked it. So if you've never heard of this book before, it is basically a dark retelling, well, not even a retelling, I guess like a dark sequel to Alice in Wonderland, but also not, because the Alice in Wonderland part, like the original story, is completely different. But either way, this thing is definitely up my alley. My like weakness for books is a retelling of a fairy tale but darker. For example, Cinder by Marissa Meyer. That sort of thing, fairy tale retelling. If you don't know what it's about, it's Cinderella but she's a cyborg in China? I can't remember now. It's been a while since I read it. But fairy tale retellings like that are absolutely my jam. So I was like, yes. Perhaps I would have enjoyed it more if I actually had read the source material. I've never actually read Alice in Wonderland, but I have seen like, I feel like 10 adaptations of it. I think the last one I saw was probably the Tim Burton one, but I'm pretty sure I watched that when I was in high school, so it's been a while since I've seen any adaptations, but even so, I did really enjoy it. However, I definitely do think this book needed trigger warnings. Oftentimes when I read books, mainly ones on my Kindle, I feel like the trigger warnings are really unnecessary, but I'm like, look, if people need them, they're there for them. I feel like this one needed them. So basically, it starts with Alice in an asylum, and I know people don't call them that anymore. However, it's definitely an asylum, sort of like Bedlam situation, because like they're all being starved to death. All the staff at the asylum basically ignore everyone, neglect them all, so like it feels like a true like proper asylum. So she's basically alone in a cell, and she's been there for 10 years. So something terrible happened to her 10 years prior when she was 16, so she's now 26. However, because of the effects of the medication and just how crazy she's felt like she's gone and how long she's been in there, she doesn't remember most of it. She knows something bad happens and she has a massive scar on her face, but she doesn't remember completely what. So she feels like she's going insane. And in the cell next to her, there's like a little hole between them that was dug by a mouse, is the Hatcher, who I feel like is the stand-in for the Hatter and the Mad Hatter. And they basically try to escape from the asylum, and they traverse through the old city, which is like a horrible place, and there's a new city which is much nicer, which is where Alice originally was from. And they basically got to take down the Jabberwocky, who was also in the asylum and is now attacking people. I felt the Jabberwocky section of the Jabberwocky stuff, because for most of the book I do forget about the Jabberwocky, needed to be a lot stronger. And also when you find out about the magic at the end, I won't spoil it for you in case you want to read it, it was definitely super OP. It hasn't put me off from reading the next one. I really want to read the next one, and I'm hoping it's perhaps going to be explained a little better in that one, but I was just a bit like, that's a bit, it was just a bit convenient basically. But otherwise really liked it. Like I said, I might have enjoyed it more if I knew the source material better, but for example it had the White Rabbit in, as you can see here. It had Tweedledum and Tweedledee in, but slightly different. It had the Caterpillar in, Cheshire. It was really cool. I love stuff like this, and I believe the second one is called Red Queen, so she wasn't in it, but she's going to be in the next one. Overall, I really enjoyed it, but I would proceed with caution if you are going to read this, because there's a lot of mention of the R word in this book. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. However, I do really like dark things. This is right up my street, so I really enjoyed it and I can't wait to read the next one. So the penultimate book I read in March was Catching Bianca by Diaries, which I read on my Kindle, so I'll put the proper book cover here. Honestly, I pretty much bought my Kindle so I could read spicy Nephew romances without anybody knowing. I have a lot of respect for people who get the paperbacks and read them out in public, because could never be me. I read it on my Kindle so no one knows what I'm reading. Anyway, really enjoyed it. So this is the 4th book in the Shadows of Obsession series by Diaries, and I love them. It's very similar to other mafia romance books, where each book is about a different girl and the guy is in the mafia, and then it moves on to a different guy in the gang and whoever he's in love with. So the first 2 actually though are about Haley and Carter, because there's a lot of plot going on. The next one, the 3rd one, is about Broadway and Violet, and this one is about Ryder and Bianca. So honestly, I don't read these books expecting a lot of plot. I basically read them in between the other books I have as kind of like a palate cleanser. Like, I find these kinds of books very easy to read, very easy to consume. I just enjoy them. I never expect all that much from them. Maybe it sounds a bit harsh, but I read these not expecting a great deal from them. But oh my god, these books by Diaries are so good. They actually have a really good plot. The romance is so good. Everything is amazing about them. All the love stories are great, and I've been able to read all 4 so far in quick succession. However, the 5th one isn't out yet. I was hoping it would be out by the time I was done, but I didn't check the Amazon page for it. The next one though, it's, oh, what's it called? Something Leilani, Keeping Leilani? I can't remember. That's the name of the next girl who's going to be paired with Kobe, who is like the last boy. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be the last one in the series, which I'm going to be so sad about. But it comes out in May. I am very excited. I can't wait. If you're just looking for an easy read, spicy mafia romance, but that's also really good and has a good plot, but isn't all that hard to follow, then you absolutely need to read these. The first one is called Breaking Hayley. Hayley spelled H-A-I-L-E-Y. And it's just, yeah, amazing. You have to read it if this is your sort of thing. So the last book I read in March was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. If you're wondering what this edition is, because it's absolutely stunning, it's the Cranford collection one. I got the Cranford collection, Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, and Pride and Prejudice when I was at 66 Books. Like in, I think it was like in last February. I got them at the same time as I got the Chronicles of Narnia box set, but stunning book. But anyway, out of the 3 of them I got, this by far has been my favourite one. I gave it 4 stars. I am often a bit apprehensive when it comes to reading classics because I definitely find them a lot harder to read. Like something like this or Our Infinite Fates, I find them very easy to consume, and I can quite easily read 100 pages a day, which is usually kind of how much I try to read a day. It doesn't always happen if I'm not feeling well or I'm just too busy or whatever, but that's usually like what I try and aim for. But oh my god, I love this. The love story was so cute, and it sort of starts off as like a Cinderella sort of story. So basically Jane's parents die when she's very young. However, her uncle, so I can't remember if it's her mum's brother or her dad's brother, takes her in. He really loves her. However, then he dies, and it's then up to his wife to look after her. She isn't related to Jane in any way other than by marriage. She doesn't like Jane. She kind of like relegates upstairs. She doesn't let her communicate with her 3 children. She's really not all that very nice to Jane. So she sends Jane away to, I guess, boarding school, but it's not a nice boarding school. Very kind of harsh place, harsh conditions, but things do eventually get better. And she eventually, when she's old enough, I think she's like 18, 19, she gets a job as a governess, and she meets Mr. Rochester, who she falls in love with. And oh my god, it was so cute. I didn't really like him at first. I was a bit like, you're a bit of a weirdo. Like, this is one point, he's having this big dinner party and Jane's been invited. She already put the child to bed. She's done all of her jobs. So she's been invited to go, and she's like, okay, whatever. Like, it's really not her sort of thing. She's not a social butterfly. She's like me. So he invites all these people there, and everyone arrives, and he's like, I've got to go and do something. I'll see you all later. So he leaves. And then 10 minutes later or whatever, a fortune teller shows up. The fortune teller demands to read the palm or like the future or whatever of every single lady at the party. And Jane goes last. But when she gets to the fortune teller, she's just like, I know it's you. And the fortune teller's like, what? And she's like, it's you, Mr. Rochester. And like, he's really not all that very nice to her upon their first meeting and when she leaves, but when they reunite, they were so cute together. I absolutely loved it. I haven't read loads of classics, so I can't say for certain this is my favourite one, but out of the ones I've read so far, it is by far my favourite. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So that is everything I read in March. If you're wondering what I'm currently reading, I'm reading Sea Sparrow by Kristen Cashore. It's one of my favourite fantasy series. I'm nearly finished with it. I think I'll be finished in 2 days. Like I said, I read about 100 pages a day, and it's like 600 pages, so works out really well. But anyway, I'd love to know what the rest of you read in March, how you would rank them, and also if you agree or disagree with me on how I've ranked these books and my opinions on them. I would love to know your thoughts. I will see you in the next one. Bye!